I got to tell you guys something that I get nervous still because when I know people are listening, I get nervous. When they're not listening, it doesn't matter. But when they are listening, it makes a huge difference. I had a buddy this morning email me a kind of a weird analogy, and I'm going to kind of pass it along. And I'm not sure if you guys in Ireland drink at all or go to pubs or anything. But, well, he gave me this idea. He says, Kurt, think about a guy that shows up at a pub with an empty glass, and he just goes from table to table and takes a little bit of beer out of everybody's glass, and he fills up his glass. And he just does this all night long, and nobody says anything. And he drinks for free at the expense of the public. And I thought about that for a second, and he goes, I mean, it keeps happening night after night, year after year, and nobody says anything. At some point, somebody should stand up and say, no, you're not drinking at my expense. Even if it's just a little bit, a fraction of my beer out of my mug. I don't want to give it to you anymore. This is my life. And of course, the mug is your life. You got one mug and it's full and you get to drink it. You get to drink of it. And somebody decides unilaterally to take from you that which is yours and only yours. And he does this until you tell him to stop. He really will do it until you tell him to stop. And that's kind of where I'm at. My buddy says, he goes on to say, well, which one are you? I just asked him, I said, am I in the bar? Am I in the bar? Because it would only happen once. I would never put up with that shit, ever. And I'm not putting up with it now, and I don't want anybody else to have to put up with it. No, I don't owe anybody anything. It doesn't matter. My wife and I have given away more than most people will ever earn in their life. We give it away freely, but we also have a lot of things taken from us by the so-called government. And that's kind of what I want to talk about right now, is the idea of the government. If you're even saying the government this and the government that, you're already making a mistake. As a self-governing, self-determining, supreme being, you are the government. You have one government and it's on your shoulders. It's your own consciousness. It's your own mind. There is no the government outside of you. And this is what we bought into. We've all bought into this idea that there's a government outside of ourselves. Here in the U.S., people talk about the Constitution this and the Constitution that. My first question to everybody around here is, what Constitution are you talking about? Some piece of paper written in 1787? Because my Constitution is mind, body, and spirit. That's my Constitution. So I'm not sure how you're applying that piece of paper to me when my Constitution is a living expression of my very essence. So again, we need to stop thinking we know what other people are talking about. I'll be damned if you're going to include me in your psychopathy. I don't want anybody to include me with anything they say, ever. Nobody speaks for me, ever. I can't say that enough. I can get myself into my own messes. I don't need other people to do it for me. One last thing about that self-governance aspect. This is a big deal here, what I'm about to say. And it steps on a lot of toes every time I say it. Biologically, right now I just sat down with a cup of coffee. It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. I live near Chicago, Illinois, but it's about 1 o'clock. I just sat down with a cup of coffee. Biologically, my substance of my being. Hell, the substance is my being. Without the substance, there is no be. To be or not to be is a real thing. So the very substance of my existence was created at an event called fertilization. The very substance of my existence was created at an event called fertilization, not conception. Never confuse fertilization or creation with conception, because conception happens about 7 days later, 7+ days later. And conception is actually when your biology implants into the wall of the uterus. That's conception. Conception has really nothing to do with creation at all. So when you hear the courts talk about conception, when you hear the media talk about conception, when you hear the church talk about conception, they're not talking about creation. They're talking about something else entirely. And they're doing it with intent to hurt you. And they want you to agree with the word conception, which you should never agree with, ever. Anyway, my biology, which is created at an event called fertilization. The very substance of my existence is made up at the molecular level of all of the things of Mother Earth. I and Mother Earth are of the same matter, the same material. My physical existence is of the earth, the material of the earth. But is my physical existence of the material of Illinois? Is my physical existence of the material of Rockford, Illinois? Winnebago County, Illinois? Is my physical substance of the material of America? Or the United States of America? No, none of those fictional jurisdictions encompasses or actually has a hold on my biology, because my biology in its entirety is the substance of the entire earth. So there are no fictions that actually have a jurisdictional claim upon my biology, the substance of my existence. Zero. I don't even want to make a jurisdictional challenge because it makes me sound stupid. If I make a jurisdictional challenge, it makes me sound like a moron. Like I don't already know this. Of course, I know that most people don't know what I just said. They don't realize that their body is not from Greece, like my grandfather on my mom's side. My grandmother on my mom's side's body was not from Sweden. My dad's body was not from Illinois. My mom's body was not from Illinois. All of us living, breathing, supreme beings right now, our bodies are carbon-based, 666. Oh shit, Kurt, 666. Our bodies are carbon-based and carbon is 666. Why do you think the churches, why do you think everybody wants you to negate 666? Because they want you to negate your body, the very foundation of your life. These people are misdirecting everybody. They're misleading everybody into the abyss. We're just lemmings following the lemming in front of us. Happy birthday, Kurt. Yeah, happy birthday. As we go over the edge, my biology, the 46 chromosome entirety of my existence was created at fertilization, and it resulted in a single cell called the zygote. That's the entirety of my existence, all of me in one cell. And from that intelligently designed single cell zygote, I evolved into the being that's speaking right now. So you got intelligent design plus evolution. But Gert, that's an impossibility. It can't be both intelligent design and evolution. Well, it is. Sorry, that's just the truth. So again, they got people divided on evolution and intelligent design, when in fact it's both. This entire fictional realm is predicated or founded upon divide and conquer at every level imaginable. Divide and conquer. Blacks versus whites, rich versus poor. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all divide and conquer. Smart versus stupid. Well, I lean towards one of those, just so you know. I had a really rough morning today because my wife and I do a flea market twice a year, and I'm 63 plus years old and she's 58 plus years old, and it's just the two of us unloading a huge truck and filling 3 spaces, 3 booths at this flea market. And we do this by ourselves while we have a 30-year-old living here at the house that doesn't lift a finger to help, or an 18-year-old that doesn't know how to yet wash dishes. So, I mean, I'm struggling with the idea of responsibility every day like everybody else, but nobody owes me anything, so I don't really bitch about that stuff very often. But when you get older, it does get a little more in your face. Anyway, back to biology. The substance of my existence is of Mother Earth. There are no fictional jurisdictions that can account for my existence. I am foreign to every jurisdiction, every fictional jurisdiction. I am foreign. Another word for foreign could be alien. I am alien to every fictitious jurisdiction on planet Earth. Substance, biology. What about my breath? Most people don't understand that the word, Kurt, this is a spiritual war. Well, in a weird sort of way, it is. The word breath, B-R-E-A-T-H, breathing, is the definition of spiritual. So as long as you're breathing, you're spiritual. It has nothing to do with religious beliefs. If you're breathing, you're spiritual. If you're inspired with the breath of God, so to speak, you're spiritual. 1 Corinthians 2:15, King James says, the spiritual man shall be judged by no man. So that means the breathing man shall be judged by no man. Breathing, that's it. If you're breathing, you're not to be judged by another man. By the way, all the people celebrating decedent to state birthdays, decedent to state, not a living being, not a supreme being, a decedent to state. Everybody acting as an agent for a birth certificated decedent to state. Breathing or not breathing? Is that in England? Is that over there with you guys, the Suspension Act? Well, I'm just curious because in the so-called Civil War here, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus on the same year, within 2 years of that. They were doing this crap all over the world. The people in charge, the bankers running this show, did it everywhere. Habeas corpus, show me the body. Where's the body? That's why the back of my book shows the crime scene. You know, we're cordoned off with the yellow tape with the placenta and the umbilical cord all bloody in the middle of a chalk outlined man. That's the crime scene. They have biological evidence that a crime occurred. I mean, right there at the hospital where we arrived, or where they cut the clamp and cut the cord, there's a crime scene there but nobody knows what the crime is. The crime is you abandoning life, you claiming a birth certificated decedent rather than a living baby. I mean, you threw the baby out with the baptismal waters, with the Gregorian calendar Roman Catholic character. When you claim or adopted that Roman Catholic birth certificated Gregorian calendar character, you threw the baby out. Now you adopt this character that's subject to the jurisdiction of Rome, Christianity, and you submit it to a ecumenical economy, a blood-backed economy where your word is your bond. You get to be the sacrificial animal. Okay, we're way off track. I just want to get back to the simplicity, the fact that my biology is not subject to any jurisdiction anywhere on the planet. I am foreign biologically to every jurisdiction. The fact that my body doesn't come from Illinois means that I'm not subject to Illinois law. The fact that my body doesn't come from Winnebago County means I'm outside of the purview of the sheriff. No law in the Americas or the United States applies to me as a living, breathing being. It only applies to the character that they devised, that they could subjugate. It doesn't apply to the living man, never has, never will. So that's the biology. Your biology is not subject to anything. What about your breath? I mean, think about this. You're breathing the air above the planet. You're breathing the oxygen that the plants, the trees, the grasses, the greens, the foliage creates. What jurisdiction is your breath coming from? I mean, take a breath and ask yourself, is this air from Ireland? Does it only come from Ireland, or does it come from everywhere? Because the breath, the spirit, is also not subject to any jurisdiction, any fictitious jurisdiction. And what about your consciousness? What about your mind? Your ability to self-determine, your self-governance? Where's that from? Tell me exactly what jurisdiction your mind falls in. I'll tell you, if you believe in a religion, you have fallen for a different government. If you believe in the Constitution or the government, you have fallen for another government. But if you are self-determining, if you know that you're a self-governing supreme being, you also know that none of those governments are your government. So you got three elements of your existence, mind, body, and spirit, and none of them are subject to any of these jurisdictions. And yet, we believe that we need to ask permission to get out from under their court charges. We believe it, and it becomes true, at least in our mind. It's never true, but we're willing to subject ourselves to this nonsense, this farce, because we believe it's true. And that's it. That's the whole damn thing. On my Facebook page, it's funny because there's a woman, I don't know what country she's in, possibly Germany or whatever, but she just showed me evidence. Of course, I only want evidence. I don't want anybody's, ideas. But Inga actually proved, she showed everybody what she sent her, what she submitted to the courts, and they dropped it. They just dropped it because it was true. They didn't have any jurisdiction over this being, this supreme being. So, I mean, I can, with Inge's permission, I will let everybody see this stuff, but you can also see it at my Facebook page at some point too. So you can let everybody know where that's at. So again, by definition, when the cops or the police, they talk about, or the attorneys, they talk about, did you get his statement? Did you get her statement? Did you take a statement? This is the statement and it's handwritten. So the answer is, here is the statement right here. You don't have to speak it, you can write it too, but it says, statement, it is self-evident from one's genuine vintage moment in the womb, called fertilization, to one's last breath beyond the womb, called expiration, that one's evolutionary entirety to the last iota is all present and accounted for, without question, corruption, or dispute. Thus, any relative measures, decedent estate, or trust situated otherwise is a contrived counterfeit, stratagem of war, or actionable fraud. And it's signed pacifist, which is important as well. She included the thumbprint, which is your DNA identifier. There's no question that a living supreme being put this down firsthand. There's no question of law as to whether or not Inga's living or dead or missing, presumed missing, any of that crap. It's all gone, in addition to the memoir. And then you have another handwriting called the mandamus. I gotta make This a little bigger so my old eyes can read it. This is amazing. This writing is almost right out of one of my letters that I wrote to the Secretary of Homeland Security back in 2019. It says, Mandamus, one here knows the difference between the immaculately conceived, no biological father, material afterbirth, uterine sister, SIB, or human creature found on one's original birthday cake, placenta, and one's,
remaining.
Remaining extraordinary extraembryonic property created through the combined 46 chromosomes of one's biological parents. Having such knowledge, again, knowledge versus faith, having such knowledge makes it impossible to confuse or mistake one's original package, the conceptus, with the mother's own matrix, or unlawfully assemble, adhesion, the two adjacent biological parcels by mistake or confession, as they are genetically distinct properties beyond a reasonable doubt. Mixed persons produced or partially delivered through said matrix via art, indent, impression, information, PHI, which is personal health information, device, etc., are defective and harmful, enforced by fiat or malpractice, based upon certificated spoliated evidence, and utterly contrary to one's species-specific origin or genesis, direct covenant with God as creator, will, and knowledge. Such a device is truly a weapon of mass destruction, and use of such a device is truly an act of terror. Pacifist, again, beautiful. I mean, when you're looking at a certain relief, it's actually a carving or carved into something, versus what it does is it exposes the other material. So a relief is a form of art. Again, mandamus. The next one was the waiver. And again, this waiver alone, actually, a guy I know here in the States purged his entire expense of jail, and it all disappeared as well. The waiver, it says, from the beginning, with God as one's only witness, I, a true man of God, acknowledge all gifts given by God, repent all transgressions against God, and waive all claims without God. And there's no period after this last God, is there? Yeah. You know what's funny is that is exactly as I wrote it. And the sentence, you don't want a period there because you keep going, don't you? You keep going. In the present moment, you keep going. So again, the waiver. These 4 handwritten documents, I don't know how any court can get past them. One of those might be enough, but to have all 4 of these in there was, when I saw this, I went, oh my gosh. I mean, this is somebody that's actually listening. Wow. Yeah, this was beautiful. And then, of course, you had your original letter, which I think people will be able to read for themselves. Point is, truth has no enemy. There are also no sides to truth. When somebody says, well, there's 2 sides to every story, I know, but there's not 2 sides to the truth. There's only truth. So when people start arguing over things, they're only arguing over partiality or things that are not whole. They're not complete. They're not true. I say that if it's not all true, it's not true at all. Everything short of the truth is a lie by omission. And that's all. Everything that we're not telling all of is a lie by omission. And that's why the birth certificated character that is 280 days after creation, i.e. fertilization, that birth certificated character is a lie by omission. So just by claiming a birthday, you're a liar. You're omitting your direct link to God. And that, by the way, is the crime. When you run from God or hide from God, or which is your responsibility to self, when you hide from reality, and that's called responsibility, when you've decided to not be responsible and claim a birthday, which puts you into the welfare state category. In other words, you become what they call a beneficiary to the public trust. That's an insurance policy. You're the beneficiary to an insurance policy. But in nature, in life, there are no guarantees, so such an insurance policy would have to be a fiction, and the fiction would have to only relate to another fiction. It doesn't relate to the living man. Remember that an act of God or an act of nature is an unsurable position. So if it's insurable, it's not reality. If it's insurable, it's not reality. So if you're submitting to a fictitious realm, if you want other people to carry your water, so to speak, if you want to be irresponsible, then you can't do this. You don't get to be exempt from all of their garbage if you want guarantees. Nature offers no guarantees at all. And that's it right there. That's why most people won't do this. They want to be guaranteed a job. They want to be guaranteed a paycheck at the end of the week. Nature doesn't offer guarantees. The real problem is, and I can go on this ad nauseum, is that they created a system that requires a social insurance or social security number, which makes you an employee of some other government. The social security number here in the States makes you basically an agent or an employee of some other government, not your own. So when you use that, you lose your autonomy, you lose your, I'll call it sovereignty. You lose that. You become part of the collective, part of the communistic global democracy. And now you're just the common man. Well, anybody listening to this call, I have nothing in common with you. Nothing, other than the fact that we might be of the same species. And that species is evidenced at the zygotic level, the beginning of, or the origin of the species. That's it. That's all we have in common, is our starting point. After that, genetics tells us I'm going to be a gold medal 400-meter champion, or I'm going to be a street sweeper, or I'm going to be somebody else. But genetics, I'm sorry, but you are who you are. But in the pretend world that we find ourselves, the birth certificated pretend world, you can be anything you want to be in the pretend world. Anyway, all right. Well, think about that. Pinocchio, the whole idea was, his dream, his wish was to become a real boy, wasn't it? He just had to stop lying. Anyway, well, of course, infants can't speak for themselves anyway. Legally, they don't have legal capacity, so they require others to speak for them. I tried to break this stuff down as simple as possible. When I claim the ID, the id, the infant, I'm also claiming incapacity, because infants can't speak for themselves. So that means I need a representative or somebody, some agency to represent my infancy. And that's, again, I have no voice as long as I keep claiming a birthday, a birth certificated character, because that character was born to the infant. That would be, biblically, that's Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a son is given and all that. Well, I hate to say it, but I'm self-governing. I've evolved beyond infancy. Remember, when I was a child, I did childish things, and now I'm a man, so I have to give up all that crap. Again, the Bible's always telling the same story, but it's always biology. At least the Old Testament is biology. So we need to outgrow all of the need for mama. We need to stop being, the mama's boy attached to the mother's string, public record, which ties you to mother's purse, to mother. So again, everybody that wants a court of public record, they remain the infant. There are no courts for the living man, but you got to be responsible for yourself. And I guess that's the caveat. You have to be responsible for yourself. This is such a great idea, by the way, tertium quid, because when you understand what a tertium quid is, you'll realize that Rome, through Christianity and the conception of Jesus and Mary, how Rome is ruling the world through this measure, this cut, this material. So a tertium quid, according to Wikipedia, it says a tertium quid refers to an unidentified third element that is in combination with two known ones. The phrase is associated with alchemy. It's Latin for third something. Literally, third what? Use the phrase to describe a mixed substance with composite properties, such as electrum. Now, I don't even know if electrum's real, but they say electrum existed, and according to Wikipedia, a somewhat different sense than the modern meaning. So over to the right of that, there's a picture, supposedly, of electrum. It says, a rare alloy of gold and silver was used by Tertullian as an example of a tertium quid, by which he meant a mixture with composite properties. Okay, well, what about the placenta, the original birthday cake? If you look up placenta at etymology online, it'll say flat cake. It's the original birthday cake, the placenta. So you got this cake, this placental cake, which is a composite. It's made up of two elements, two known elements. baby's biology, my biology, the fetal property, and my mom's biology, the maternal property. So the placenta is a feto-maternal organ. It has some of me, some of baby, and some of my mom. So what's weird is my biology, my DNA in nature, and because it's natural, is not a patentable product. My biology, my DNA is not patentable. Nature's not patentable. My mom's biology is not patentable. But when you combine two known elements like my biology and my mom's biology into one new third thing, never before existed, this placenta, some governments recognize that third thing as a patentable product. And this is important. So a Reese's peanut butter cup has chocolate, this cup, but I mean, inside there's this peanut butter center with this chocolate outside covering. The chocolate covers the peanut butter. Now, what's interesting about that is, I mean, if the owners of chocolate said, you can't use my chocolate, then the creator of the Reese's peanut butter cup wouldn't have a product to sell. If the owners of peanut butter decided not to let peanut butter be part of that product, then the creators of the Reese's peanut butter cup wouldn't have a product. If the true owners of the chocolate or peanut butter didn't allow their product into that combination, then the Reese's peanut butter cup could not exist. But it does. It exists as something new. It's neither chocolate nor peanut butter, but a combination of both. That's what a tertium quid is. In other words, my biology alone is not patentable. My mom's biology alone is not patentable. But if you find a way to combine those two into something different, neither baby nor mom, you have a potentially patentable product. Now, here's what's interesting. In the United States Code at 35 USC, that's 35 space USC space 101. I go to Cornell Law just because it's fast, but at Cornell Law, 35 USC 101, inventions patentable is the title. And it says, whoever invents or discovers any new and useful process, machine, manufacture, or composition of matter, or any new and useful improvement thereof, may obtain a patent, therefore, subject to the conditions and requirements of this title. This is 1952. The feto-maternal placenta, if considered a composition of matter, would become patentable if it was looked at as a third thing, something not baby and not mom. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened. They're using this third thing, this measure, this cut material that you have abandoned. They're patenting it and they're using it against you in the courtroom. It has your biology, so they can drag you in on what's called a body attachment, and they can attach you to their claim, perfecting their claim. You become the surety. You become the energy, the source of energy for their invention. Now, if I take my chocolate out of their invention, if I know my godly origins fertilization, and I go all the way back to beginning and I identify the entirety of my biological estate, all of my biology, as one supreme being from the beginning, then I've removed my chocolate from their combination chocolate and peanut butter. I've removed my biology from their feto-maternal claim just by having this knowledge. So their patented product cannot exist if I do. It is literally all or nothing. If I exist, their patented character cannot exist. If their character exists, I cannot exist. It's one or the other. So the truth of the matter is, if I know my godly origin all the way back, I have destroyed their tertium quid, their third person, their third party. It doesn't exist if I do, because I can't be here without my beginning. I can't be here without the 280 days in the womb. I can't be here now if I don't include all of that biology. So I have to be dead in order for their birth certificated character to exist. I have to die. No, you got to be careful here. I always call it splitting hairs. If all of me is all of me, and I actually identify all of me, then the part that they're calling fetal property within their composition of matter cannot be a party. If I remove all of my property and put it in one place, then the placenta as a fetal maternal organ does not exist because it doesn't include my biology. When I take my stuff out of their equation, there is no tertium quid. But that's just through knowledge. That's just knowing the limits. Think about it as property lines. My estate is all of this, and inside these lines is all me. Just because they cut a piece of me off and put it into their mixture doesn't mean it's there. Can't be there. Because if it is there, they're taking the front end of my life. They're taking the 280 days of my life in the womb away from me. Then I can't be here now. I cannot exist without my beginning, can I? This is a question that needs to be answered. Can I be here now if you take away the 280 days in the womb? If it never existed for me, could I be here now? None. I have to die in order for their character to exist. It's called an impossible contract. They both can't happen at the same time. The past and the present are mutually exclusive, so they can't do what they're doing if I have the knowledge of the truth of the matter. Their world collapses completely. We're doing it right now. We're collapsing their world right now. Well, I think that we're talking about the corporate aspect, the Roman Catholic juridical person, which is this Jesus and Mary. In fact, in 1302, Unum Sanctum spoke of the human creature. I believe that the placenta, or the afterbirth, is the human creature that was claimed by Pope Boniface in 1302. Again, if I remove my biology, or if I identify the entirety of my biology, then all of their nonsense, all of their claims fall by the wayside. They don't exist. And we need to stop worrying about all of their erroneous claims, because they cannot be true if we're here. If we're here now, their world disappears. And I mean that, because their world doesn't exist now. If reality's in play, their world is gone. I'm in love with reality, totally. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. What I mean by that is all I do is state the truth. I don't care what they do. I'm not interested in anything they do, because it doesn't matter to me. The truth is always the truth. And so if I identify my biology, they can't use any part of it at all. It's private property. It's always private. It always will be private unless I abandon it. If I abandon it by accepting a birthday, or by accepting salvation or saviors, or by claiming some other government, if I do any of these things, I'm volunteering away my life. It's called self-sacrifice. I am sacrificing myself for what they call the greater good. But what most people don't know is the definition of good, or goods, is the unborn of animals. So the greater good is everybody celebrating a birthday, this abandoned biology into one giant John Doe pool. And that's the greater good. Everybody's abandoning their unborn self to this collective, and they don't realize that then the collective is probably, and I say probably knowing full well that they do, but the United Nations is ruling over this. They call it a measure. So when they clamp and cut a piece of you, that's a rule, or a rule of measure, or a measure. The word rule and measure are one and the same thing when they cut a piece of you off. And that's the measure that the United Nations is using at every level. So these people are using this biology. Now, here's what's interesting about the tertium quid, just so I don't lose this train of thought. The tertium quid, the placenta, the feto-maternal placenta, is a combination of my biology and my mom's biology. They don't mix. They don't mix. They work together, but they do not become one, ever. You could actually take all of my mom's biology out of the placenta, and all that's left behind is mine. You could actually separate it. Same with reversing that. You could take mine out and leaving only my mom's. So the placenta, the fetal-maternal placenta, is woven together, but it's not one. It's never one thing. It's not me and my mom mixed together. But what's really interesting is that the definition of strand, S-T-R-A-N-D, to be stranded, like on an island, stranded, but also the word strand is to weave together. So the fetal-maternal placenta is a form of stranding. You're stranded with mother. And that's a huge thing when it comes to admiralty law. If you're stranded on an island, literally a biological island, that's exactly why you have the ability for some government to come in through admiralty law and salvage that stranded vessel. So this goes pretty deep, pretty fast, But one last thing about this stranding or this combination of elements, this feto-maternal biology, what's interesting is these two elements together. They also call it a bundle of rights. Your rights and mom's rights, or you and Mother Earth, or you and the public, are bound or bundled together. And this bundle of rights is what every single court in the world is using against you. It's a bundle because it's you. Remember, you've heard this before. Wow, what a bundle of joy when they're talking about, this child they're taking home from the hospital, but nobody knows that they're not talking about the baby. They're talking about the placenta, the birth certificated placenta, which is a bundle of joy. It's also a bundle of rights. And that bundle of rights is known as a social contract, because you're now bound or woven in to the social fabric of the rest of the world. So now it becomes a social contract. The bundle of rights, the feto-maternal patented placenta, is a bundle of rights that forces you into a social contract, which means you're now part of the public. You're not just in the public, you are the public, which is why public policy, public law, public rules, public health, all that public bullshit applies to you, because you've allowed this piece of you to become part of the public, the general public. You don't have to withdraw anything. You just have to identify. This is way easier than you think. You don't have to undo anything because you were misled from the beginning. This is all fraud. The moment you start identifying your estate in its entirety, your godly estate began at fertilization. And from that moment to this moment, it's all one biology. It's all one DNA. What's really neat about it is that you never abandon it. And this goes back to the placenta. The fact that somebody might have some of that on record or on file or whatever doesn't matter, because you're still using the exact same biology, the exact same DNA. And if you're still using it, you never abandoned it. You're still using it today, aren't you? So think about that. If you're using it right now, albeit in an evolutionary form, you're still using the exact same biology, the exact same DNA that was created at fertilization, at creation.